If capitalism was efficient, kitchens wouldn't sit empty for 22 hours of the day. Resources are wasted when these things fall apart from age long before they would from usage. I haven't worn a knife too thin to use, have you? The tools themselves are also inefficient. Restaurants don't use the fridges we use. They use walk-in fridges, because smaller things have more surface area per unit volume, letting in more heat and taking more resources. We could use resources multiple times more efficiently by sharing, allowing us to make things bigger and use them more. This inefficiency hurts disabled people. Wasted resources are wasted time, and we often have less energy to begin with. Not handling the massive required maintenance leads to snowballing, where you get stuck in a cycle of cleaning up failures instead of preventing them. I often can't keep up with dishes myself, and leaving them dirty impacts their lifespan, meaning I must use more energy finding new ones. Abled people are not free from this. This inefficiency can only be managed with efficient consumption and transportation of these resources, restricting us to a small subset of forms of organization. Cities in colonialism, for example. Consuming the total natural resources of multiple countries requires violence. Multiple times, the resources and processing is also multiple times the environmental impact, like CO2 released. We don't need magical technology or fancy new processes to save us, when sharing could have a far larger impact. Capitalism is so inefficient, it's literally killing us. A main cause of this inefficiency is avoiding punishment as well as punishment itself. Punishment is used to make unwanted actions more expensive than wanted actions, leaving wanted ones the only effective choice. I'm not going to spend $50 a day on HOA anti-garden fines to save $10 on food. Capitalism requires punishment because it makes rewards counterproductive. States paying for rat extermination by the tail famously results in capitalists breeding rats. This atomizes property into what you see today. As to minimize punishment, you must minimize responsibilities, because you can't fully control anything. You are given some leeway for this risk, money, but that leeway only accumulates when it's not used, so that only reinforces the issue. Punishment itself is also just labor done to make other labor less efficient. It's a waste. Instead, we could look at things systematically and work together. Ask people what kind of garden would get you excited to grow food, instead of saying grow food or get paid less. Moving past blame allows us to learn to share, and if we pull it off, actually survive. This is risky, of course. Even with fully trusted allies, there are still outside groups like law looking to punish. You may have to abandon shared property, as getting stuck in a drawn-out fight for this property often wastes more resources than it took to build. Just focus on finding what you work well in and making more of that. So build only a few relationships and objects at a time. Cutting losses hurts less when you start small. Going slow in building trust means you will either have little to take, or have saved more resources than are even in the shared tools, meaning you've gained either way. Two difficulties are that bigger tools cost more upfront, and replacing existing working tools uses more resources itself. Since appliances last for years, it's unlikely to find someone replacing something at the same time as you. So I recommend waiting until either you or a neighbor have to replace the tool, and then using that opportunity to propose getting something together and splitting the cost. If what broke is something that's rarely used, you could even just share what you already have, a lawnmower for example. Expect them to want to take less risk though, so you may need to take on more initial cost, but resources can be made up long term as you build trust. One way to do this is to split costs 50-50 if it's their thing that's broken. A freezer that's twice as big won't cost twice as much, so it saves money for them. Actually doing this wouldn't look like you creating a proposal and taking it to them to sign. It involves communal planning. They say, I want this, and you say, what do you need to get this? Switch and repeat. Start with the role you need the sharing to fill. Stop when nobody needs anything else from the other person, and can supply themselves. and make sure to include how it will be accessible to both of you. Do not be afraid to restart from the beginning. Small changes can lead to very different conclusions. Be willing to say, hey, these might be the wrong goals. Can we try again with a different location in mind and compare plans? This restarting can happen later as well. Make sure to check in regularly to make sure needs are still being met. Talk to anarchists you know to learn more, especially those involved in protests. Communal property is central to our ideology, and protesting involves quickly building these tools and relations. Talking about protests can be dangerous, so there are also links on the topic in the comments. Shared property is not rare or new. It exists in many cultures today and throughout history. Please take time to look into the organizing of many different indigenous peoples. The Zapatistas are a group often talked about by anarchists and have written a lot.